I think what I'm gonna do here is I gotta do the tried and true angstrom setup. Well, one, because the Megaminx is fast, but two, I sort of want to maintain that crisp finish that the GAN possesses. I might do the same thing with the GAN 5x5. Actually, I don't need to take this off. This is the science, the sweet science. Gonna do the same thing on the opposite side just to ensure that I have enough lube spread out quickly. Perfect. All right. So when you put in gravitas, you really gotta break it in. It definitely slows down the puzzle a lot, and putting in too much gives you a world of pain. I've learned what too much is, so I know better. Oh yeah, that's great. That is immediately such an interesting feel. I love that. Oh, it's a little sticky on some sides. That's to be expected. Alright, so there's a few decisions that I have to make here. And the decision number one is whether or not I want to put Dignitas. Now, Dignitas is not a necessary lube in the angstrom setup, in my honest opinion. I find Dignitas reacts very differently to a lot of puzzles. It does react well to the GAN honeycomb pattern. What I will say is it does feel really nice. But yeah, hard to say. I don't know. What else do I want to put in it? I kind of want to just put DNM in it as is. I don't think it needs anything else, really. That was a little bit underwhelming, to be honest. I think what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna add just a little bit. Just a little bit. The reason is because I think Dignitas is quite a good lube to help hold DNM 37, and I anticipate that I will be using DNM 37 at some point of this setup. I just probably don't need a lot. Just enough to get to the pieces, and let's see if that's all I need, to be honest. I don't anticipate a lot of Dignitas being needed. So I used about, for a 3x3, double the amount of Gravitas, and I used about half the amount of Dignitas recommended. At least that's what I gather from the cubicle setups. It does feel really nice. Very subtle, but you can feel the difference. Okay, this reacted way differently than I thought it would, in a good way. Yeah. Not bad. All right, so I think the last bit, I think this is perfect as is. So as you guys saw, I did very little in actuality, but it goes a very long way. When you feel my puzzle, you'll be like, whoa, that is lit. Last agenda item. Do I have any leftover DNM? I do have leftover DNM. I'll use the leftover. Okay, so I just applied 4 drops of DNM. Yes. Yes. Oh man. I'm always caught off guard by how DNM reacts to Angstrom, Gravitas, and Dignitas. Every single time, it's just an absolute treat. All right, let's do a time solve. this will do. This will do. This is great. All right. The next one that I'm gonna do for setup, I'm actually gonna make it really simple because I have a tried and true way to set up the VinCube, because this is my second VinCube. I'm just gonna use a mixture of medium and light silicone. So, for the VinCube, right, I have adherent and I have adherent light. And usually, the reason why I chose that is because this cube is what I call clacky. Clacky, for a lot of people, can mean different things, and it's like crunchy. So what ends up happening is when you have a really crunchy, clacky puzzle, is when you add like this layer of soft lubricant to it, it turns into this really muted, plush feel. Whereas I feel like when you have a really crisp puzzle that's already, I think a good example is if you guys have ever tried the Ambition. If you have a really crisp, soft plastic puzzle, you don't want to continue adding to that. You want to add something that gives it a little bit more of a tactile feeling, if that makes sense. Your goal is to balance tactility with feel. So for the VinCube, I think my thought process will be pretty straightforward. So the adherent light is simply to keep the puzzle up to speed. So what I'm gonna do is, in the mechanism of the pieces, I'm just gonna add the medium viscosity lube. And you don't want to go crazy, because a lot of lube for anything that has somewhat of a decent amount of viscosity will completely slow down your 4x4 specifically, but really any big cube, because there are so many internal components. But the reason why I added the medium viscosity is the medium viscosity will allow you to control the feel of the cube a little bit better without compromising the speed too aggressively. And then the light silicone will allow you to adjust for speed while also adjusting for feel. So it doesn't isolate any of the variables, but it gives you more flexibility to play with. So this is great. I also did forget that this cube may require a little bit of tensioning. Let me see if I have anything. I do. So this does need to be ever so slightly tighter. So I'm gonna do a quarter turn on each. So on 4x4, a quarter turn does a lot to most 4x4s. So don't go not a quarter turn, an eighth turn. Going a full quarter turn is pretty risky in terms of not being able to dial in your tension for 4x4. So I recommend 8 turns. Now it requires a little bit more precision in terms of reading exactly where each of the hands are for the screw. But yeah, perfect. Yep, that's about right. Perfect. All right, so I'm starting to feel the cube slow down a bit, but also not feel exactly how I wanted to feel in terms of gumminess and plushness. So this is where the fast silicone is gonna play a really good hand, because again, it controls both. So I'm gonna kind of slide this all over the internal pieces, also slather on the outer layers a little bit more. You can be more aggressive with light silicone. Now, I would say this is the equivalent of like a weight 2 or a weight 1. If that's all you have at home, perfectly fine. Oh yeah, that's right. And you can hear the difference. Now once that's broken in completely, it's just gonna be a joy and a pleasure to turn. And it'll have this really sweet, speed to it. I'm not really sure the best way to explain it. Oh, well, this is my Mega Minx attempt, but honestly, it doesn't matter. All right, let's do a time solve. Perfect. All right. So cube number 2, done. Great job. See, setting up is very quick, right? I've only expended about, I want to say, 8 minutes a cube. All right, this is going to be my magnum opus because this could be my new main or it could be a flop. It's the Weilong version 10. I actually ordered a second one because I did see some possibilities that it could be my new main. So for caveat, this is no ball core, and this also has I set up the tension adjustment system to 2 and 2, so it's the 1 dial up from the default. Now I don't know if the maglev has a different default setting, but 2 and 2 is what I have for this. This cube has a very stark, the medium tensions, I think Cube had mentioned this, the medium tension settings that this has is extremely tight. And if he's talking about that for maglev, I'd imagine for screw, it's going to be exactly the same. So screws that I don't have the ball core, so the ball core's coming, so it might feel a little bit different, but yeah. I might go a slightly different setup this time. But the philosophy is still the same. It's crunchy and clocky. Similar to the VinCube. However, I'm not too convinced that silicone is the best route here. I'm gonna bring back some Angstrom because Angstrom is my go-to, as they call it. Now, immediately out the window, I don't use Celeritas. If you guys are curious, I do have Celeritas. I find that I don't want to use Celeritas because it doesn't really. The biggest thing about Celeritas is how much it reduces drag, but I find that for me it's not really necessary at this juncture because most of the time I want to have some effect on the actual feel of it, and if I really want to decrease drag too, I'll probably default to DNM. So this is generally my thought process. So immediately my intuition right here is I'm actually going to skip out on Dignitas. I'm just going to use Gravitas to control the speed without dictating the feel too much. And then I'm probably going to add a really fast silicone like Lubical Silk or Mystic, which is not silicone but has the effectiveness of such. That is probably going to be my play, but I do have Dignitas just in case I change my mind. Okay, this is I might have applied a lot, but this cube is blazing fast. Yes. The reason why, too, is I'm not the biggest fan of applying D&M to 3x3s as well, just a personal preference. So using something like a lubical silk or a mystic tends to like be a little bit of a cheat code for me. Pretty sweet. Do I want to apply a little bit more is the ultimate question. This feels great. Feels like a really, really well set up WRM. Actually, it feels like the WRM, like a lot. I never thought about that. This feels a lot like the WRM, but just slightly more fine-tuned. I like that. I like that. Okay. So it's not at all slowing down. So I'm just gonna use the residual of my. Oh, and I cracked my thing after years. Oh. Of use. It has finally fallen over. So both of my sticks have broken now. LOL. Time to let it go. Luckily, I was on my last puzzle to set up because I'm not setting up the 5x5 today. Okay, that also means that I'm not going to apply Dignitas because I'm not interested in using something else right now to apply it. Oh, you know what? I think I have to use silicone, like a really nice silicone. Yeah, that might be it. This, I can envision it now. This just feels so nice, and it's gonna feel better in a bit after I apply my idea. Yep, all right, I'm not gonna have this D&M, probably. Now the question is, do I use heavy or do I use regular? I think what I'm gonna do is to maximize the plush aspect without, you know, I'm going to use a little bit of heavy. I use adherent heavy a lot, you know, when I really think about it. Right, I'm gonna apply it right at the contact point of the tracks and the edges. And a little bit where the corner and the edge have surface contact, but not too much. Oh, yes, that is great. Oh, this feels bizarre in a really good way. I like that a lot. I really, really like this. This is crazy. This feels like a good old-fashioned 3x3. One that I really enjoy right now. This does feel like a WRM. I was a huge fan of the WRM. What's up, Theo? Alright, so at this point, I did, yeah. At this point, I have nothing else to add to this I'm debating whether or not I want to add a fast lube to this. Yeah, I'm gonna add adherent, just regular medium viscosity adherent. And then I'm gonna apply it right just at the corner and edge contact points. Okay, as suspected, it doesn't really speed up the puzzle too much, which is what I was going for. I really just wanted to smoothen out the loop that has been, you know, sitting in the puzzle, because angstrom gravitas and weight 5 is not the best combination for your cube to be usable at the start of a session. It usually requires like a couple turns to like wake it up, as we call it. This is great. All right, perfect. Now we're gonna break it in, and I'm just going to solve. All right, so the Weilong version 10, done with the setup. Very happy. We'll see when my new cubes come in if I switch mains, because I'll probably switch to the ball core. But this is a great puzzle. Use code CHAI at thecubicle.com. Save 5% off your Weilong version 10. This is great. All right, that's a setup video. I'm just gonna keep solving on the stream. Bye.